Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first official episode of the Drew Kennington Show. Coming to you live from the 317 Indianapolis, the Nap, or some of you call it the I. I will say this is my fourth time recording this intro because I'll admit it, I'm a little nervous. This is not the first time I've recorded a podcast episode. I've actually done 6 of these over the last month and a half, but they were all practice episodes. I was trying to get my feet wet, try to figure out kind of what the identity of the show I wanted and kind of really what I was doing because I've never done something like this before. So if I'm a little nervous off top, bear with me. We'll get through it together. And hopefully this is the intro that stays in the show because like I said, I've done 4 of these now and I keep fumbling at some point and having to restart. But to get myself out of the jitters, let's just jump into a topic. They say first impressions matter the most, and I'm hoping that this goes well. All right, so I guess what we could start with today is why it is that I'm starting a podcast. It's a great area to start because I'm sure that is the first question you had when you clicked on this. And to be honest with you, okay, before I say this, I want to preface, I'm not trying to sound like every out-of-touch white woman ever, but the main reason I started this is for self-improvement. I know. Some of you just groaned a little bit. It's not like that, all right? It's not like I'm going to fucking record podcasts on my vacation home in the mountains and be like, you just gotta be calm. No, so the reason I started this is because I wanted to, like I just said, self-improvement. And what I mean by that is I struggle with putting myself out there. I struggle with being myself in every situation, if that makes sense. And I've noticed I struggle the most being myself on camera. I mean, you can tell what are we, about 3 minutes into this, and I'm already a little squirrely, already a little all over the place. I'm nervous here, but we're going to power through. And I'd always had this idea because in my life I always try to do things that make me uncomfortable, and I always try to do things that I know in the long run will make me a better person. And I knew that this fear of putting myself out, not even just online, just in general in life, is something that if I were able to get over, I could, see great results, or I don't know which one word. See improvement in my life. There we go. So I didn't really start with this idea. I initially started with the idea of doing TikToks. Over the last probably 6 to 8 months, I've been wrestling with the idea of starting posting TikToks and putting myself out in that way. But I could never bring myself to do it. It was like once a month, every over the past 6 to 8 months, I'd be like, you got to do it. You got to put yourself out there. I know it's scary. I know it's hard, but you got to do it. And then I would never do it. So it was kind of just this weird spiral I'd find myself in where I kept telling myself I needed to do this thing because I knew it would help me improve, and I never did it. And then one day I had the bright idea, and I was like, hey, why don't I just start a podcast? You know what I mean? I was like, well, if I were to do this TikTok thing, all I would really do, my plan was just talk into it, talk to my phone in my car or in nature. I don't know, just talk to my phone about stuff. And I was like, well, why don't I just do it on a podcast? I feel like that's a typical white guy thing to do is you buy a microphone and you start firing takes into it. That's just what we do. That's what we do. So now we're here. and I've enjoyed it so far. My first few episodes were pretty rough. My first episode, I sat in my closet in this room that I'm recording in, and I was in the closet on the floor, hiding behind clothes, speaking into my the voice memos on my phone, having it upside down because I was too nervous and too scared to have anyone else hear me. And I was also, yeah, just afraid. So I sat in the closet as one does. And, eventually we made it out of the closet. Wait, pause. No, that's not what okay. We'll move past that. Eventually I removed myself from that area of the room, and I started just sitting on the floor in the room and then talking into my phone. And then I eventually bought a chair, and then I bought a mic, and now I have a whole little recording system here. I'm even recording it on my phone, so I've came quite a long way in the past month and a half with this whole endeavor. And I'm excited to start, pumping these out, get better at it, and just be more comfortable. Because, like I said, I was pretty comfortable my last couple episodes because I'm just sitting in a room in my home talking into a microphone. So, you kind of just gain confidence through that. But then, you bring in the aspect of, oh, people are actually going to hear this, and oh, I'm recording myself. It makes it a little more, stressful. Not stressful, just makes me a little more nervous. But that's cool. That's cool. We'll power through. We'll get through it. I feel like I've said that a lot so far, but it is what it is. So, yeah. So that's what we're here. That's what we're going to do. I think that's all I really got on why I'm starting it. It was mainly just that. So I guess what we could do. Oh, no. Here's what I want to do first. I do want to lay out what to expect from this show. Because like I said, this is our first time hanging out. This is our first time being together. You may not really know me. I don't know you. So why don't we get to know each other a little bit? And kind of explain to you what to expect if you listen to this show. Off top, first thing, we're probably going to talk politics on here. We're probably going to talk politics. I don't want to be a political guy. I don't want to be, one of those like dudes you just see or hear that just always be yelling about something. I don't want to be doing all that. But we're going to talk about it because I find it interesting. I enjoy people talking about politics. I enjoy talking politics with people. So we will be talking about that. We'll also dabble in sports a little bit. I do not want to have a sports show. I don't want to only talk about sports. I don't know. I just feel like there's so many sports shows out there, and you know what it is? I just don't want to be. I see clips all the time of people who have like sports shows, quote unquote, and it's like if they have like nothing to talk about, it'll just turn into like top 5 players all time, and then they're just like discussing top 5 players, or they're like, oh, what college did this quarterback go to? And then it's like, bro, like what are we doing? Like I'm not saying that like, I mean it's your show, do what you want, but like, what are we doing? What are we doing? So, sorry, bumped the mic there. So we're going to do politics, we're going to do a little sports, and then the main, not necessarily the main, but one of the things that I want to kind of like eventually do more of the more I get comfortable is speaking on things that just kind of like insightful topics, I guess, that I kind of either see throughout my day-to-day or just think about on my day-to-day or just realizations, things like that. Things in that kind of category. Because that's what I initially wanted to do. Like when I spoke on doing TikToks, that's what I would have done. Is I would have just done like insightful. I don't want to say the word self-help because that just sounds, I don't know. I don't like that word. It's not that I don't like the word self-help. It's just in the context of like me talking to people about things. I don't want it to seem like I just like know more than you. So you got to listen to me so you can help yourself out, man. Like, no, it's not like that. It's just, I don't know, things I kind of realize, things I kind of think about and that I want to expand on. And maybe it'll make you think about them as well, and we can all be in this echo chamber together. So yeah, so those are the main three. Politics, a little bit of sports, personal life insights, things of that nature. So I guess on that note, we can dive into our first topic of the show, and I want to speak on Minnesota. Yes, the hot political topic of the weekend, or honestly the last few weeks, is what is happening in the great state of Minnesota. Some say it's basically Canada. I say it's America. But before we get too deep into that, I do want to kind of preface you on where I stand politically, because, you know, if you kind of come in here feeling some type of way about something and you think you're going to get a certain type of viewpoint, and then, you know, you get something you're not looking for, you might get mad. So, we're just going to preface. We're going to let everyone kind of know where we stand before we get too deep into this. Personally, I don't have a dog in the fight, if I'm being completely honest with you. I am not a Democrat. I am not a Republican. I don't really affiliate with either of those parties. I don't really care what party you align with, really who you support, even like in like a political sense of a candidate running. I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican. I just care if what you're saying makes the most sense and you seem like you got a good head on your shoulders. Somebody I can rally behind, in a sense. With that being said, not a Trump guy. Can't stand the guy. Nothing to do with him being a Republican. I just can't stand him. Personally, I think he's a narcissist. And I don't think a narcissist should be the president of the United States. Oh, sorry. That's just my personal beliefs. You believe what you want to believe. You know, I personally believe that presidents should move in a way that, represents the country well. And I think the best example of that, again, I'm only 24, so I don't have much experience with presidents, but my best experience with that is Barack Obama. Take away his where he stands politically on anything. Take away the party he represented. Take away anything and just strip it down solely to the fact of just the way he interacted with media, the way he talked when he was on the microphone, the way he carried himself, the way he spoke of America and the American people. I think that's how presidents should carry themselves, personally. And I don't see that from the big man, Donnie J. So, not a fan of his. Not a fan. I don't hate you if you like him. I do what you got to do. If that's the way your cookie crumbles, it's cool with me. Just don't be weird about it. But yeah, so that's the little preface I wanted to give there. So when we talk about this, what's happening in Minnesota, you kind of have an idea of how I feel about things and like how someone in my shoes can see it from that perspective. And to just cut to the chase, to be completely honest with you, I don't get it. I'll be honest, I don't get it. Because my whole thing with this current Trump administration is I feel like everything they do, there's like somebody that benefits from it. And I don't mean like, I guess what I mean is monetarily. Okay, hold on, let me back it up. The way I view it, when Donald Trump does things, a lot of the times, I'm not saying every time, but a lot of the times, it's to serve one of two things. And that's to either bolster up his pockets monetarily, or, his friends, his billionaire friends, or to stroke his own ego. Sorry, I couldn't figure out what word I was trying to say there. Bolster somebody's pockets monetarily, or stroke his own ego. Every time he does something, I feel like you can look at it and be like, okay, like, oh my God, why is he doing this? It doesn't make sense. And then take a step back and be like, okay, is he trying to boost his own ego? Yes. Okay, cool. Oh, that's not really boosting his ego. Okay, well, whose pockets is he trying to fill? You know, and I just feel like you can always kind of boil it down to one of those two things. So whenever he does things, it's like not that crazy. It's like yeah, that's what he does, bro. He wants to boost his pockets or boost the ego. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense that he would do that. But then you see what's going on in Minnesota, and it's just like who's benefiting from this? That's what I'm wondering. Who's benefiting from this? Because the people are pissed off. You already were not in the most favorable. I mean, you're Donald Trump. You're a polarizing figure as it is, and you already weren't in the greatest light with the way you've handled previous things from this past year of your second term as president. So then you go and implement all this ICE shit, and it's like now you're just losing even more of the voter base, basically, that got you into the presidency. Your approval ratings in the fucking toilet, and it just baffles me a little bit because I just feel like he's always been consistent with doing or saying whatever it is that he can do to just boost that approval rating up. And I just feel like with what's currently going on, it's not helping anybody. It's not helping people like you more. It's not helping the citizens. Like, we were sold this idea of like, hey, we're gonna do the immigration thing, and we're gonna get the criminals out. Hey, we got some criminals. They're hanging out. They're eating pets. They might kill your child. They're getting transgender surgeries in prisons, and we're like, oh my god, transgender surgeries. They're eating our pets, not Coco. You know what I mean? You're freaking out a little bit. And then you're like, well, we need to get them out of here. And I feel like when he first got elected, you ask most people, and they're like, yeah, like, no, I think we should if you're a criminal in another country, you probably shouldn't be here, especially if you're here illegally, And we were all kind of like, yeah, okay, yeah, we can try that. And then he starts doing it, and like I think at first it was like pretty chill. It was like, they were actually targeting like gang members and shit, and we were all like, okay, and they got a couple people that weren't. We were all like, okay, wait a minute, we got a couple mix ups here. Maybe we could fix that. And then it was just like a free for all, bro. That now it's at the point where it's like, oh, your skin is brown, get in the van, brother. Oh, you're an 8-month-old child, you're gone, twin. And it's like, who are we benefiting here? Who are we helping? Who are we keeping safe by taking children and deporting them? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know about y'all, but respectfully, I'm not scared of a 5-year-old. 6'3", 6'4", shoes on, 180 on a good day. I could fuck a 5-year-old up if he came at me. You know what I'm saying? So like, I don't think we need to deport him, because I also don't think he's taking my job. I think I got that under control, respectfully. So, if my job was eating animal crackers and coloring pages, I might be a little nervous, but it's not. So I don't think I'm nervous about that one. So like, who are we benefiting? And I think that's honestly what scares me the most about all this, is because, like I said, anything he would do before, it serves the ego, it pads the pockets of somebody. It's like, okay, I get it. It's annoying, but I get it. I don't know whose pockets this is padding, and if this is serving his ego, that's what scares me, bro. It's like, if the only thing I can wrap my head around of like why this is happening is because he wants to like tear down his political opponents, and because Minnesota's like very, very blue. Tim Walz ran against him with Kamala, so like he's got beef with Minnesota, so he's like, let's just do this. And that's honestly kind of terrifying, because you have a guy in power who's so petty that he's willing to inflict a fucking military operation, damn near, onto a U.S. state, all because he's got beef Sorry, I just burped. All because he's got beef with like a handful of people in that state. You know, like American citizens are dying at the hands of these military, government imposed military force in this state. And we're all just supposed to be like, yeah, but like Mexicans. Like, is that not like kind of fucked? Like, bro, man, it's disappointing. It's frustrating because it's like you have people, this whole administration, their whole thing is like masculinity and patriotism. That's like their whole like marketing, what they market to you. Their propaganda push is if you support Big DJT, yeah, Big DJT, you're an American. And if you support us, you're a man. You're a super masculine boy if you support big old Donnie J and his cronies. But it's like, that's the idea they sell to you, but then they do like some of the most un-American shit and cause you to become basically a bootlicker of an authoritarian figure, which is inherently un-American, and also, might I add, beta male activity, bro. You want to be a masculine man, you want to be the alpha dog, but you're licking the feet of an authoritarian bully who's doing un-American shit, and then you're like, I am a manly American. It's like, no, you're not. You're a weak little boy who's just fucking... See? We're not going to get mean. We're not going to be mean to people. We're going to be calm. We're going to be calm, and we're going to be not mean. We're going to try to be nice. See, all I'm saying is it's more patriotic and it's more masculine to stand up to the authoritarian figure instead of getting on your knees and bowing down to him. That's where we'll leave that at. Because if I keep going on this, I might get mad. And I don't want to be mad. I want to be chill. I want to be happy. This is the first episode. We should be celebrating. I'm sipping coffee out the Menards mug. It's a good day. It's a good day. So let's transition away from politics. And that's why I don't want to have a fully political show. Because if I came in here once a week and I did like an hour and a half on politics, I'm just up here pissed off for an hour and a half. And who does that serve? Now I go downstairs to hang out with my fiance. And she's like, how was the podcast, babe? And I'm like, these fucking conservatives, bro. Like, I'm just fired up. No beef with the conservatives, though. Like I said, no dog in the fight. It's just... this current administration it's hard. And one more thing to add. I've tried very hard to look at this whole situation objectively. Especially when it comes to politics, I understand how much media can influence the way you feel about things. And like, you can, especially with algorithms, the way they work on social media, we can all get kind of put into our own little echo chambers. If you keep interacting with more left-leaning things, you just get fed more left-leaning things and vice versa. So at times we can find ourselves feeling like our way of thinking is the normal way of thinking, whereas there's a complete other half of the population that feels the complete opposite. Sorry if you heard the dog bark. So I try to be objective about it. I try to look at it from both sides. And I try to take a step back as often as I can and be like, okay, well, a lot of conservative people feel very strongly about this. Let me see why. Let me look into why. And oftentimes I look into them. Oh, okay, I get it. I see why people feel the way they feel about this. Vice versa. I'm like, okay, well, a lot of liberal people, a lot of left-leaning people, they feel very strongly about this. Let me see what's up. And it's like, oh, that makes sense. Yeah, I can understand why they feel that way. With this current administration, I can't. I cannot wrap my head around how you would support anything like this, and how this to you is a good representation of how we should be running things in America. Personally, like I said, very objectively looking at things, I can't figure out how the fuck people support this. But if you do, I don't hate you. We don't got no beef. We don't got no beef. I don't need you, DMing me or flooding my comments, being like, "Well, it's because of this. We like them." It's like, okay, I don't care. I'm just trying to tell you my side of things, So we will actually officially leave it on that. On to the next thing. So I was in Miami last week, about literally a week ago. I was got to experience the Vice City and chill in the warm weather for a weekend. And I know what you may be thinking. You may be like, Drew, you were in Miami last weekend, huh? I would respond. I'd say, yeah, I was. That's what I literally just said. And you'd be like, oh my God, were you there for the college football national championship? IU was playing Miami in Miami for the national championship. You were there. And that is a question I did get asked a lot. And my answer to that would be, I appreciate you thinking that I have it like that my money is that right, that I could blow bands to go watch IU football playing the national championship. But dear listener, I will let you know, my bands are not that big. My pockets are not that fat. So no, I did not go down to Miami for the national championship. It just so happens my trip that I've had planned since last summer coincided with the same time when everybody else from my home state was also in the state that I was in. Isn't that frustrating? But no, it was actually really cool. It was my first time going to South Florida. I've been to Orlando when I was a kid, and I've been to Destin and things like that. So it was nice to experience. The weather was beautiful. We stayed in Brickell, which was actually an insanely nice area. If you go to Miami, highly recommend staying there. Just a really, really dope trip. I got to go to Unrivaled, if anyone knows what that is. It's women's basketball. Shout out the ladies. Shout out Paige Beckers. And shout out, who else deserves a shout out? Courtney Williams. She gets the second shout out. Shout out Courtney Williams. But yeah, it was a good time. I've been to a couple other big cities. I was going to say I live in a big city, but I don't really know if I consider Indianapolis a big city. Especially when you go somewhere like Chicago or like where I just went, Miami. Indianapolis is a very, very small city. And it's funny because I used to bartend downtown in the city. And people would come in from all over the country because it was a hotel bar. So people from all over the country would come down, go to the convention center, things like that. And they'd always be like, man, it feels like a small town, with how walkable it is and just how nice everyone is, blah, blah, blah. And me, growing up in a small town, I was like, fuck you talking about, dude? This place is massive. This place is huge. This is the Mecca, bro. Calling it a small town. Come to Eminence, Indiana. I'll show you a small town, twin. But now I understand. I get it. You come somewhere, you go somewhere like Chicago or like Miami, and it's you feel like everyone's just trying to keep up with each other. Everyone's trying to fit the mold. I swear everyone downtown Miami, we spent a lot of time walking around downtown Miami. Everybody downtown Miami was wearing workout gear. And it was all Aloe, it was all Lululemon, it was all expensive shit. And if they didn't have workout gear on, they had expensive clothing on. So it just kind of felt like everyone was trying to keep up with each other. And now I will add this. Everyone in Miami was it was shocking. Everyone was fit. It was kind of crazy. Didn't really see any fat people in Miami. I'm not trying to, do the whole fat thing, but there wasn't that many fat people, and I was what is happening? This is kind of crazy. I will say the only I don't know if I want to say it. I'm going to say it because I started to say it, but I don't mean it. I do mean it. But if you're offended by this, I'm sorry. All I'm trying to say is the only fat people I saw in Miami were wearing Indiana Hoosiers gear. There, I said it. It's out there now. I don't know how to edit these, so it's going to have to stay in. And we're going to leave it at that. Okay. But yeah, it was a good time, man. It was a good time. Glad I went. Um, would I go back? It's expensive. That's what I was going to say. It's expensive. And if I were to go back, I would prepare better for the fact that everything is expensive, bro. I spent $80 on Ubers just to get to somewhere and back. That was 20 minutes away. 80 beans, bro. 80 beans. Kind of insane. But we got through it. Flights were cool. You know, IU ended up winning the football game, which was cool because, you know, I was like in Miami, even though the stadium is 30 minutes away from the city. Like, I was in downtown Miami, and I would have had to drive 30 minutes to go see this game. Like, okay, are you really in Miami? Speaking of being in Miami, I mentioned I went to Unrivaled earlier. Unrivaled, if you know what it is, it's a 3v3 women's basketball league. They market it as being in Miami. They're like, "Oh, we're in Miami. Oh, in the sunny Miami South Beach, blah 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 blah." Like I said, once again, I stayed in Miami. I was in the heart of the M. Sephora Arena, where they play basketball, is 20 minutes outside the city, and you gotta go to Little Cuba to get there, bro. No disrespect to the Cubans, shout out. But I'm in the middle of nowhere, Medley, Florida, sketchy hotels, sketchy gas stations, and a Hispanic grocery store. Again, nothing against Hispanics, just an observation of the area. This is not downtown Miami that they marketed to me. So, quit the cap is all I'm saying. Stop the cap. If you're not downtown Miami, quit saying you're in Miami. You're in Medley, Florida. And yeah, so that was my Miami trip. I wrote when I flew down there, I sat next to a really cool lady named Diana. She's like 60 something. We chopped it up for like 20 minutes. She's the GOAT. So if you listen to this, Diana, shout out. I hope your cruise was everything you thought it would be. All right. That was the Miami trip recap. Good old times. Wish I was still there now because it's cold and snowy here. But, you know, that's the Midwest for you. Something else I wanted to talk about. I watched the UFC for the first time last night. That was kind of fun. Because growing up, you know, I've never been able to watch the UFC because they were $60 per pay-per-view. And yeah, now they're on Paramount Plus, and I was able to watch my first full fight card. And let me tell you, it was boring. I was bored. I'll be honest. I you know, sorry if I got loud right there. I was expecting a little bit more juice, more sauce, a little more excitement. You know, I sat down. I was #sat at 9 p.m. sharp, ready to lock in on the fight card for UFC 324, Paddy Pimblett versus Justin Gaethje. And I'll be honest, the first three fights were a bit of a snoozer. I don't know if that's kind of the thing. I don't know if I'm the problem. You know, I don't know if I just don't understand MMA that well. But yeah, I was pretty bored the first three fights, and I was really trying to lock in. Really trying to see what other people were seeing and see how exciting it might be, but I was just wasn't feeling it, and it made it even worse that I'm sitting there watching it with my fiance, and like this is her first introduction to you know, this sport, and you know how women are, they get pretty bored easily with sports, you know, unless it's like a good game, like a good game anyone can get into. I remember vividly watching, must have been 2021. I don't remember the exact year, but it was UCLA versus Gonzaga in the NCAA tournament. I believe it was the Final Four. UCLA was the 11 seed that year with like Johnny Juzang and Jaime Jaquez playing Gonzaga with Jalen Suggs. And I remember my sister, who does not care about any sport whatsoever, was tapped into that because that was such a good game. Fucking Jalen Suggs comes down, bangs the game winner from like right in front of half court. We were all losing our minds. Again, my sister, who does not watch sports, was like hands on the head, like, oh my God, what just happened? So that's what I was kind of hoping to have a similar experience going into this UFC event. I was like, she's never watched UFC. My fiance, she's sitting here watching it with me. She's gonna see a Derek Lewis sleeper just knock this dude cold out, and she's gonna be like, oh my God, this sport is so cool, let's continue to watch it. The whole time I'm sitting there snoozing. I'm trying to gas up Sean O'Malley. I'm like, yo, this guy's like, he's like popular, he's the truth, bro, he's the truth. Snoozer. The only thing that saved it, I will say, the main event, Paddy versus Gaethje, was phenomenal. But to continue the storyline of me watching my fiance, she was tapped out at this point. She was on her phone. So she didn't even make it to the good part. But to each their own. It's whatever. But I will say, watching that Paddy Pimblett fight, I was going in, I watched it for Paddy Pimblett. I think he's very entertaining. I think he's very fun to watch. I don't know how that dude didn't get knocked the fuck out, bro. I don't know how he didn't get slept 6 different times. It was the first round of the fight, and I was like, it's over. It's over. And then the second round, he gets absolutely smoked. In the middle round, and then to end the round, he gets an elbow to the face, followed by a punch to the face. Head bounces off the mat twice in the second round. It's over. His eyes got clawed. He got poked in the eye by the thumb. Some say, oh, well, Gaethje should have lost a point, whatever. It's open to interpretation. Regardless, his eye got poked. He got rocked multiple times in the second round. And then he went on to fight 3 more rounds with a puffy face, blood drooling. I don't know how that boy didn't get knocked out. So, yeah. That was intense. It was fun. I don't know if I will be watching any more UFC events. To be honest, not to sound like an unk, but they start late, bro. Like, they start at 9 o'clock when the main card starts, and they don't end until like damn near 1 in the morning. I'm like, bro, I know it's a Saturday night, but like, come on, man. I got beauty rest to get. We're over here fucking still rolling around, punching each other till 1 in the morning. So yeah. So unless, I will say this. If who would need to fight to tune me back into UFC? I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't know many UFC fighters. So that's my casual take on UFC 324. Like I said, bit of a snoozer. Maybe I'm just not the best fan. But shout out Pimblett and Gaethje, because that was a good one. I fucked with that one heavy. All right. So I want to transition here a little bit. We've been yeah, we're about 40 minutes in. This is pretty good. But we've been yapping. We've been talking about some things that I wanted to talk about. And I want to kind of close this show out with, I don't know if I want to say motivational. Just something I've been thinking about for probably the better part of a week. And it all started when I saw a Instagram reel video. Let me tell you, I love Instagram reels. I don't use TikTok. I have TikTok, but I don't use it. And this isn't like one of those people where I'm like, I don't use TikTok. I'm above that. No, I just don't use it just because I I don't know, something about TikTok and the short form content that gets put over there. It seems like people try really hard over there, and I don't know what that is. I don't know how to explain it. Something about TikTok just makes me a little uncomfortable. I'll say it. Instagram Reels, I get on there, man. It's just straight hee-hees and ha-has. All I'm looking at's memes. You know what I mean? It's a great time. But I did see a Instagram Reel. It wasn't a meme. It was a guy, and he was speaking about how in his friends he sees them losing their spark, and like losing their spark in their 20s, and how they just become like this like zombified shell of themselves. And it really just kind of got me thinking. Like, I haven't been able to stop thinking about it ever since I saw it, because I do feel like there's this. It's fairly common for us as just young men in today's culture. Yeah, I know. Buckle in. We're getting serious, boys. As young men in today's culture, to kind of just fall into this trap. And I feel like we all see it so often, not only in ourselves, but in those around us, where you become so consumed with your job and your livelihood that you lose touch with yourself. You know, you lose as this guy mentioned in the video, your spark. You lose the light, and you lose the excitement you have for just being alive and being able to experience this. Like, we can all think back to when we were kids. You know, we were high schoolers, we were middle schoolers, and we just had like so much excitement about the future. We had this energy about us. We had this hope. And then we all graduate, whatever, go on with our lives, and we just find ourselves working these jobs and getting drunk every weekend, and we just lose ourselves. You know, that's all you do. You just work, you drink, you sit around and talk about work, and that's it. And then you just start to like slowly decay, and you slowly start to become a lesser version of yourself. And it just had me thinking, like, why does that happen? And I feel like part of it is just because I think it's two things. I think the main thing is the culture we live in today. With social media, with us being so connected, with us consuming all the time, we see people like all over the internet who just like have it, quote unquote. People always, on social media, it's your highlight tape. You put out there the best parts of your life, the best parts of your day, the best parts of your personality, the best parts of your relationship. And oftentimes people consume that and they mistake it for being a full-time reality. So if you sit around all day and all you do is consume, your peers, it's like, for me, I'm 24, so it'd be, 20 to 24-year-olds or 20 to 27 or whatever it is, people in their 20s who just like seem to like quote unquote have it all together, like, oh my God, they got the car, bro, they got the house, they got the cool job, oh my God, they're traveling, oh my God, you see all this shit, man, and it's just like people doing shit you want to do, and then you go and look in the mirror at your life and you're like, man, I'm not shit. Like, I work a fucking 9-to-5 job that I hate, and I just be hanging out with the same people I hang out with, having the same conversations. Like, it's over for me. You're like this dude's 22. I'm 27 now. I'm 25 now. Like, it's over for me, bro. I'm not gonna get there. My window is gone. And you kind of fill that void with drinking. And then it just becomes this negative feedback loop where it's like, you drink and you feel like shit, and then you feel like shit, so you drink, and then it's just like bah 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 bah, and you just can't get out of it, and then you're in this funk, and then your spark fades, and then you become a zombified version of yourself. And it can be dangerous too, because sometimes we find ourselves in pockets where we have people who amplify this behavior. You know, if you have people in similar circumstances to you who are also caught in this negative feedback loop of feeling like shit, so they drink, and then they drink, so they feel like shit, and they feel like shit. You know what I mean? This negative feedback loop. It'll just promote it within you, like within your friend group, where it's like, we're like, okay, well, you know, I kind of think that what I'm doing is fucked up, but like, I got like 4 dudes here who also do it. So like, we're kind of all in this together, and is it really all that bad? So then you're just like stuck in it. And when you're kind of stuck in it, it just kind of creates this like group mentality of like, this is what we do. Hey, for the boys, you know, we just get fucked up, and then we go to work. That's what we do. And which is cool. I mean, it's cool to like have like, you know, your people. But the idea of pulling yourself out of it often isn't a prevailing thought within that environment. You know, when you're there, you kind of just exist there, and you're not having those conversations of like realization and being able to talk to one another and hold each other accountable and being like, listen, bro, like, I feel like we could do more. You know, I feel like we could be more. I feel like we could chase that fucking crazy dream we got. And when you do speak up, and maybe you do have that moment of realization, and maybe you do feel like, you know, I want to pull myself out of this. Oftentimes in those environments, I feel like you would go to those friends and then they would just make fun of you. You know? They'd be like, oh, look at this guy. Oh, look at this guy. He wants to be an actor. Oh, look at this guy. He wants to blah, 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 whatever, you know, fill in the blank. So you just end up getting stuck there. And then on top of being stuck there, you know, you aren't allowed to expand your mind to the possibilities of what could be. You know, you've just kind of convinced yourself that this is where I'm at, this is where I'll always be. You then just feel like it's over. And it's very unfortunate when like 20-year-olds feel like that, because I know I'm only 24, but so it's like, who am I to really speak on that? But it's just like, when you really zoom out and you look at this life, it's like, there's so much time. There's so much just life to live. There's so much experiences to be had. And you're not going to have it all figured out when you're fucking, honestly, ever. Like, the more people I meet, the more older people I meet, you know, people in their 30s, people in their 40s, it's like, oh, you have no idea what you're doing. You know, you listen to people who you would think, like, quote unquote, have it all together, and you're like, oh, you don't know anything. You don't know more than me, and you're 55 and a millionaire. And then it's just kind of like, oh, so we just never really figure it out. You know, we just never, there's never going to come a point in this life where we kind of have that, like, man, good thing I just figured it all out when I was 19, huh? You know, like, because there's so much shit to do. There's so many people to meet. There's so many experiences to have. There's so many fuck ups we gotta go through. And if you believe that there's no more room for growth, if you believe that you can't be anything more than what you are right now, you will never be anything more than what you are right now. And you will never grow. Because anytime that there's any type of opportunity, you're just going to like ignore it, because that's the thing. Like, I personally feel like in this life, God, the universe, whatever label you want to give the higher power, it'll present you with opportunities to go down the paths you want to go down. But we have to be consciously aware enough to realize that that's what's happening. And if you're so stuck in your own funk, you don't even realize what's happening right in front of you. You don't even realize there is a way out, because you've become so convinced that this is it. And it's just sad to see, man, because so many people they just give up too soon. And if they just realize that, I think the dog just knocked at the door. If they just realize that everybody has the potential to do anything they want, there'd be so many less people who feel like they're stuck. Yeah, so that's kind of that little tangent I have there is about all I got on that. Like I said, the dog is currently scratching at the door, so I think that's her way of letting me know it's time to wrap this one up. So I do just want to say, if you did listen all the way to the end, if you're currently listening to this right now, thank you so much. I appreciate that greatly. This is a scary endeavor for me. I've never done anything like this before, and things like this make me a little nervous. So if you did like it, I would say drop. I don't know where I'm going to post it. I know it's going on Spotify. I don't know if I'm going to. It'll probably make it to YouTube, maybe. But just if you can comment somewhere, just let me know that you enjoyed it. I mean, if you know me personally, because the reality is that the only people really listening to this first episode are probably going to know me personally. You can maybe DM me or text me and just be like, yo, fucking that shit ruled, twin. And I'd appreciate that. So yeah. Also, these are going to come out every Monday. I don't know what time. Probably just like 8 a.m., 7 a.m., 6 a.m. I don't know. They're going to come out every Monday. For sure. And then if I'm feeling froggy, I'm going to do bonus episodes throughout the week. But probably at first just every Monday. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed, and just know that it's only going to get better from here. All right, guys. Goodbye.